Oh, good evening, everybody. Today is Friday, April 16th, 2021, and you are watching or listening to another edition of Forward Maryland. From my undisclosed location in Columbia, Maryland, I'm Bill Woodcock.
And I'm Jason Booms outside of Columbia, Maryland for today's special interview.
Jason, where exactly is your location? Are you doing it is Friday evening, you are at another location. Did Soros pay for another trip for you?
Well, all these big bucks are floating around, all Soros money, developer dollars. I mean, I'm just flying my G4 and see where it takes me.
How deep is the state these days, Jason?
Marianas plus about 15 feet, Bill.
Oh.
I don't know. I've said too much.
Oh Lord, he said something in code. And while we're talking about codes, actually, our guest has nothing to do with codes that I know of. We are continuing our series of candidates for Columbia Council, also known as CA Board of Columbia Association Board of Directors seats in the 2021 election. And this evening, it is our pleasure to welcome to the show candidate for the CA board spot from Wilde Lake, Tina Horn. Tina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. I will warn you both, though, that if you get me laughing too hard, I may not be able to finish. So,
well, we won't. If we do it, it won't be on purpose. That's for sure.
No one has ever found us funny.
Oh,
You know what you're in for.
So first off, Tina, tell us who you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself and
sure.
and why. What is driving your candidacy? Why are you running for this?
Why am I running?
Sure. Who are you and why are you here?
Who the heck are you and what are you doing? All right.
That's right.
My name is Tina Horn. I have been a Columbia resident since '99, a Wilde Lake resident since 2005. I have been a community volunteer for a long time. Everything from my church's Black Lives Matter team to my kids' Cub Scout team, PTA, the whole traditional Columbia mom thing, swim team at 6 a.m, setting up the concessions, the whole thing. Most of my activism, well, there have been two paths. My work has been 20 years in association management, and then actually almost 10 years with Enterprise Community Partners, which is what Jim Rouse did when he was done with Columbia. So I also have this whole Jim Rousean foundation in me. And then also volunteering in the community and activism to try and make things better. And that's honestly, that's why I'm running for CA board. The quality of life here is really, really good for many of us. And not everyone can access all of the amenities, and not everyone can access all of the power structures that they need to access, and not everyone's voices are at the table. And so I'm running to try and begin the wave to change that.
So what would you do if you're elected to the CA Board of Directors from Wilde Lake? What are your priorities if you're elected?
Okay, thank you. I am concerned about bringing an equity lens to all of the decisions that the board makes, and to advocating fiercely for folks who have not been advocated for in a while. I know that right now with the board being all white, and I'm not going to change that part of it myself, but I have a lot of experience with the Black Lives Matter team and a lot of allies to whom I can listen and elevate their voices. Mm-hmm. And so I will be bringing an equity lens to all of the decisions that I make, or at least I will be working very hard to do so. And I am as fallible as the next person. And so I will be continuously asking the people with whom I am allied to make sure that I stay on that path of advancing equity in the work that we're doing. And that'll apply for everything from, what statements does the organization release for Black Lives Matter to budgeting and staffing decisions, as the board is permitted to offer guidance in those. So you can bring an equity lens to absolutely every piece of the work that an organization does. I learned that in my association management career.
Mhm. So, and I love that answer because, I mean, as you know, I mean, I've been involved and Jason's been involved in Columbia politics for many a year. And I mean, the fact of the matter is that at 54 almost, I would be the second youngest member of the CA board if I was elected to the CA board. And I would be another white guy on an all white CA board. And you don't have to go very far in this community. And there are people who are a lot younger than us and whose skin are many different shades than ours.
Yep.
You know, I mean, if you were elected to the board, I mean, give me a little bit more or give us a little bit more of a picture as to what that commitment to diversity and inclusion would look like. Would it be the board, it's just the board? Would it be also reaching down to CA staff on the village levels? Walk us through a little bit of a picture about what that would be.
So there's a couple of things that play there. My work in association management and nonprofit management for almost 30 years leads me to understand that a nonprofit's board, they have one employee, the executive director, and the executive director has all of the other employees. I've heard that called anything from policy governance to at church we call it Carver, the Carver method, those kinds of models. Boards are not supposed to interfere with staff. They are not supposed to micromanage staff. Their one employee is the chief staff executive, whether the title is an executive director or president or whatever the title is. So the work of the board is to manage, the work of any board is to manage the executive director or the chief staff executive. In Columbia, you have a little bit different scenario because I think that the CA board itself could be they have a bully pulpit, unlike any other organization in Columbia. And so for them to advocate, for example, for more and more voices of diversity at the village board levels, for them to do work like seeking out and mentoring potential candidates for village board and for CA positions, I am assuming that if I get elected, that I will be replaced by somebody much younger and much different looking than me, and probably fairly shortly, because I'm actively looking for people to talk to and say, hey, have you considered running? Have you considered running? Have you considered running? And see how wide and deep a bench we can build, because there's so much potential in Columbia. Oh my goodness, what a thrill this place is to live in. Jim Rouse's vision has given us the bones, and what we put on those bones, the sky is the limit. If we can't do it here, where can we do it? We can bring that into a more, I'm going to sound like a pie in the sky kind of dreamer, but the more equitable world we want, or we purport to want, most of us, we could start that here.
Mm-hmm.
We could do.
Mm-hmm. I thank you for that answer, and this would normally be the time I transition over to Jason, but I'm not sure Jason is
here. What did
I
say?
I don't know where he is. So I think
him?
the deep state got him. I mean, he did say too much. So
he admitted the Soros payments.
Yeah,
see, I haven't gotten mine yet.
Damn Soros. I mean, he paid him in doggy coin too. So, which is just awful. So let me go along a Jason Booms like line of questioning where I cannot be Jason Booms. I can just hope to imitate him. So what a Jason question would be, what problems do you see right now in both the Columbia Association and particularly on the CA board, in addition to what you've already spoken to?
Did they make a statement about Black Lives Matter last summer?
Not that I know of. I don't think they made very statements about anything, and the statements that they did make were terrible. But that's just me editorializing.
The people, our neighbors, are in pain. Jim Rouse did not give CA only the responsibility to steward the grass and the rocks and the pavement and the sidewalks and the swimming pools. CA is also responsible for the people of Columbia. The sidewalks and the trails and the pools and the walking paths and the gardens and the open space are there for the people. Jim Rouse said that cities are to be gardens for growing people. He didn't say they were be gardens for growing gardens. So what is CA doing to tend our souls? And isn't that corny?
Oh, it's not corny at all. It's an excellent point.
Well, and how can, when I was doing tours through Undesign the Red Line a couple of years ago, I kept looking at the picture. There was a picture of Jim Rouse's planning committee, and it was all white men around a table and one woman who was the secretary. And they built something amazing and visionary. And I am like stunned and inspired by the ideas. What did they miss? How many things did they miss? What could have been built if that table had included more voices?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, because I'm the wrong person to ask. And I want to turn and ask my friends, who are backing me and who think that my heart is in the right place and that kind of stuff, to say, what do you need? I've heard a lot of folks say that the job of the CA board is to talk. I think the job of the CA board is to listen. And that the job of the CA board to listen to the people that it has not listened to before. CA has done a beautiful job of listening to people who look like us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine. Like all of us, I am pandemic fine.
Right.
Or at least as good as can be expected in a global pandemic. I'm fine. There are families in my neighborhood and across the street and down the road and around the corner who are not fine, who live here, to whom we collectively have rights and responsibilities because they are our neighbors.
Jason, we welcome you back. We're hoping you didn't get spirited away by the Soros forces.
No, my apologies for being a ritzy establishment. The internet here sucks. So I did miss part of the conversation, but I do have one question I do want to ask. And this is actually a question. There was a community forum that took place where I was able to get a similar question through, but just in case people didn't catch that forum, why not disclose who is helping to fund the Rouse Project?
Why not? Oh, I thought you were going to ask about my campaign.
Well, I do, and I will. But,
okay,
no,
I'm not the boss of the Rouse Project. They will field your questions as you invite them onto the show. The steering committee makes those decisions. I'm not on the steering committee.
I mean, as you know, Tina, I'm obviously a fan of yours. I do find it interesting that, and I know there's a lot of people that bring up issues of transparency, maybe for good faith reasons, perhaps less so. But for an organization that's taking such an interest in the CA races, when we really haven't seen anything like this previously, a bit more of a professionalization of the CA races, I mean, it just looks like a new thing.
Well, it is a new thing. It is a new thing. So I have a lot of opinions about the Rouse Project, but I don't speak for them and they don't speak for me. Can we take that as okay, excellent. So I think that the Rouse Project has kicked a hornet's nest. And I think it's a hornet's nest that desperately needed kicking. Because the board right now looks like a previous generation version of the three of us. They're out of touch. They're well-meaning. Oh, I have no doubts that they're well-meaning, but they're out of touch. And I don't think they know how to listen to people who espouse completely different viewpoints than they do. I think it's time for a change. When the average age of a board governing us, when a board trying to govern a city is all white and the city is half people of color, Wild Lake, Bryant Woods Elementary School is like 48% kids of color. Wild Lake Middle School is the high 40s. Wild Lake High School is the high 40s. Running Brook is the low 50s. There's a mismatch. There are families in Wild Lake that are not being represented, whose needs are not being represented by the current CA board. It's a change we need to make in order for there to be more fairness. And I think we will get, I mean, you know, all the studies that have been done about diversity will get better decisions. And we need better decisions. And frankly, we deserve better decisions. Columbia is an amazing place and can continue to be an amazing place. And we all deserve better decisions. So I'm trying to think about how to frame this. So I have been trying to be a racial justice advocate for a long time, since Tamir Rice was murdered, frankly. My son is probably about 12 months younger than Tamir would be if he were still alive. And he was aware enough when Tamir was murdered to look at me and say, oh no, Mom. Oh no. One of my friends can't be murdered, Mom. He was aware enough to recognize, one, that he was not in danger because of the color of his skin, but that his friends were. And that we grown-ups had to do something about it. So that's why I've been doing the Black Lives Matter work that I've been doing ever since. And one of the things that I have learned through the course of that is I have race. I have whiteness, and whiteness has me. And whiteness is this, we don't talk about it. I mean, I remember when I was a child mentioning that, you know, because St. John's, where I grew up, was just, it is still one of the Michigan is a deeply segregated place. And the rural parts that I grew up in were I mean, I don't think I saw an actual African-American person except on Sesame Street until I was about 10. Yeah. Whereas Alex, when I took him back to Michigan to visit his cousin when he was 5, you know, that whisper that little kids do that's not a mom, 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 mom. He was 5 years old. Why doesn't cousin Luke have any Black friends, Mom? Oh God. And my Midwestern heart panicked because I'm like, oh criminy, how am I supposed to explain this? Well, we'll talk about that later, Alex. So, you know, I dodged it, which, you know, now that he's older, I can handle conversations a little bit better, but that's because I've improved and he's grown up a little bit. But his 5-year-old vision was pretty clear. He saw, he's not dumb. So whiteness is a pervasive, omnipresent force in this country. And it has a lot of power and it likes it that way. And it's not any one of us, it's all of us. And I think it's groupthink. I don't think it's Tina deliberately thinks to be racist. I think it's, I don't want to be uncomfortable. You're making me uncomfortable with this talk of diversity. So let's talk about transparency instead, because that's important. I've had a lot of really well-meaning white people tell me, oh, diversity is very important, period, paragraph. Let's talk about transparency. Mm-hmm. Transparency in this race has become a red herring so that we don't have to face the lack of diversity in our leadership and our power structures that really makes us uncomfortable. Oh, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about that. And that makes sense. It makes sense. We have been conditioned not to recognize whiteness when it's operating. That's what keeps it going. And so when fewer than 200 people turn out, which is, I think, it's miserable turnout in an election. Yeah. The fix is in. And the people, and I saw a comment, please give me an example of someone who ran for a village board election and lost because of their race. Well, it doesn't work that way. Please make me a list of all of the times that people of color were discouraged from running because they don't have access to the same networks that are already in the power systems and the power structures. So it's not surprising to me that there's a hornet's nest about this, because a very complacent, very comfortable, and God, well-meaning group of people have been asked to look at themselves in the mirror. And that's terrifying. It's so not easy to do. That's why I wear this all the time, is to remind me to do that, because I stink at it. I hate it. I hate looking at myself and knowing that I am benefiting from unearned privilege. You know, I was raised, you do it yourself. That's the Midwestern work ethic, right? You do it yourself. You pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You work really hard. Well, okay, I worked really hard and now I can live in Columbia. And and I have privileges. I can walk around on paths and nobody challenges me. I can, do whatever I want within certain parameters, except I can't paint my door pink. Okay, sorry. You get me riled up and then I keep going.
Hello? Yeah. Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying all that you're raising, Tina, is extremely important, and obviously I've written on this topic extensively on Spartan Considerations.
Yes.
But I do fundamentally believe that, well, when some people talk transparency, perhaps it's an issue of deflection. But I just find it interesting. Now, granted, I don't know everyone who's running on the Rouse Project slate. Obviously I've met you, and I've met Jessamine down in Hickory. I'm saying her name right, aren't I? Hickory Ridge.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, and Rashida George and I just very recently connected. I'm not sure if I've ever said a word to her in actual real life.
She's amazing. She's amazing.
And some good folks. I just keep going back to that. Why is the Rouse Project, funding folks, particularly those, that have, left-wing proclivities? It just strikes me as there's some disconnect going on here. I just get nervous whenever entities that are rather opaque in their operations, are getting involved in these races, and I'm like, okay, what's the motivation here? What are they hoping to secure out of this? I mean, call me a cynic, but it's like, well, I don't think it's completely altruism on their part. So what do they want? So
well, they said on their website what they wanted, right?
Yeah, but I mean, frankly, that was a lot of pablum. I didn't think much of actually what was writing, but it was just
when somebody like me runs with their assistants, maybe it's not a lot of pablum. Maybe they really do want diversity, and that's what they're working towards. I don't know why that's so hard for anybody to consider a possibility.
Why can't they come out and say, this is how much we're spending on these races, and this is why? And if there's a bad actor, involved, well, let's get him up. Let's stand up and explain why this organization or this person is backing it. I'd rather know than not know.
Well, yeah, but what I can tell you about my campaign is that I am fully in compliance with every single campaign law that is around with the race that I'm running for. And if those laws change, heck yeah, and I run again, heck yeah, I will be in compliance with those laws as well. But right now, we need to focus on diversity. We have a problem. We have a big problem. The average age on the board is 68 years old. That's a whole generation removed from us.
From us.
And I'm a grown up. I mean, I'm the other side of that $50. Where are the 35-year-olds? Heck, you want to hear something crazy? Where's the teenager? Where's the smob? Why don't we have high school kids on the board? It's their city. If we have an eye to the future, how in the world are we mired in the past?
All right, Bill, you want to take the next question?
Oh, yes. I was looking for that high sign, sir. So no worries. So I want to pick up along and pull the thread of kicking hornets' nests because you've mentioned a few good ones, and I guess to help illuminate the viewer or listener, Columbia does. I think you would agree if I make this editorial statement. The CA does a lot of things wrong in terms of outreach. The Columbia Association, to your point about where are the smobs, Columbia has a teen council, or Columbia has a young adult council, or Columbia has a middle school council. So it's all of these self-selected, self-appointed um, groups which get few or no members or do very little. And I mean, to your point, what I'm hearing is that that's just perpetuating the continuing problem we have. Would you agree?
Indeed. I could embroider on that, but I think you're absolutely right. If there are, if there is no power in those groups and they are not making real decisions, yeah, I've got a 17-year-old. Those kids are smart. They're so smart. They're terrifyingly smart, some of them. And they can see right through us. And they recognize that most of us are full of crap. We talk a good game, and we talk, for example, the environment. We talk a good game about the environment and drive our gas guzzlers everywhere. They what is that James Baldwin quote? I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. Kids are smart. I don't blame them for not participating. And one of the other things that I learned in the course of my nonprofit career is how you outreach to volunteers is from a position of power. You need to outreach to volunteers from a position of understanding and of service. And so maybe part of the reason that people don't run for CA board unless they look like me or unless they are encouraged is because the meetings are long and they're at inconvenient times and they're hard to get to. And I have childcare responsibilities, and who's going to help feed my kids? And I don't have a car to get there anyways. How are we making our meetings more accessible to more people? I don't think that we have done much except what the pandemic forced us to do.
I would agree. I mean, my take in many years of being involved in this community is that CA outreach is just overall horrid, above and just up and down the board. I'm going to ask a question I asked the other night. If Jim Rouse were to be back among us and look, I think about two decades hence on his passing, and look at this experiment that he helped create 54 years ago, what do you think he would say about it?
I have a book of his speeches.
And I saw your quote on Facebook today about it, which I thought
my
was
little book of
very nice.
Jim Rouse speeches. See, this is why I don't use anybody's names. I'm about to say Bill Rouse. Nobody knows who Bill Rouse is. What do I think he would say? I think he would appreciate the struggle. And I think he would be pleased with as much as we are trying to work together. I think that he liked democracy, and democracy is, it's hard work. It's a mess. People get on your nerves, but we're in this together. And I think the more that we remember that we're in this together, the better off we will all be. What do I think Jim Rouse would say? I think he would say, keep going, do more. Keep going and do some more.
One more question, and then I'll turn it over to Jason. And as I borrowed a Jason question, I shall now blatantly steal a Jason question. Apologies to Jason. But CA, as you know, just appointed a new president and CEO. Any first thoughts, observations, things that you would want to work with this person on, regardless of the outcome of your race? Anything come to mind at all?
I will be very, very interested to see how she handles racial injustice. And if I'm on the board, I will attempt to chew her ear off as much as she permits me to. If I am not on the board, I will attempt to chew her ear off as much as she permits me to, about that topic. We have problems in Howard County. We have problems in Columbia. We've got anti-Semitism, we've got Islamophobia, we've got racial injustice, we've got Asian hate, we've got problems in Howard County, and there's no reason to assume, in fact, there's every reason not to assume, that those problems are here in Columbia as well. What can CA do to help us learn to live together? So I would be asking her that question too. And that's a very different kind of work than making sure that the pools are operating and that the funds are allocated and that the trails are swept and that kind of stuff. That's important too. And there's a big and that I think CA can be doing a better job. I think it just takes some creativity, and decisions made by diverse bodies are much more creative than those made by homogeneous bodies.
Jason, back to you, sir.
Thanks. Having served on the Wilde Lake Village Board, I had the opportunity, to see, Nancy McCord and how she was able to collaborate with the village board, and obviously the CA board, is entrusted with looking after, all of the Columbia Association. That said, I was just curious. So you've been in Wilde Lake for a while. You've seen it change. Is there anything you'd like to point out as being a particular, things that have gone particularly well in Wilde Lake in recent years? And conversely, is there anything else that you see as an ongoing need for improvement in Wilde Lake?
I think that we have some environmental challenges with our stream. I think that we have had some success with the redevelopment of the village center. That's a beautiful place. And I'm so excited. I think that CA across all of Columbia has an environmental responsibility or opportunity, or however you want to frame it, to do some things differently with its open space that could have a really positive impact on the whole community. For example, I read somewhere that grass, turf, is as permeable as concrete, which to me that's completely counterintuitive. That makes no sense at all. How can that be the case? Okay, I looked up the numbers. Could we start pulling grass out and plant wildflowers? Me and Lady Bird Johnson, and with the, see how dated I am with the wildflowers. I remember my husband and I were going on a road trip to North Carolina or South Carolina, I don't remember where we were. And down the median of the highway was this river of red poppies. It was beautiful. And I remember thinking, I would be content to sit in traffic for 45 minutes over no good reason, because would you see how pretty those red poppies are? And they thrilled me. They were just beautiful and delightful. We could do that here. Every inch of grass that we tear out and put wildflowers in doesn't have to be mowed, which is even better for the environment. So we're doing this combo of pollinators get good food to eat, and we don't have to mow as much. So it's like this win-win. So that's another, that's a kind of a I don't want to call it a crazy idea. It's an out there idea. What else do I think is going well in Wilde Lake? I think my community, especially Faulkner Ridge, is turning over. It has been a virtual retirement community for a while. I think young families are coming in and seniors are downsizing. I don't know that that's a particularly well or unwell thing. It is simply a thing, but I think we need to be aware of it and we need to celebrate it. We've got treasures of neighborhood knowledge and wisdom leaving the community that we need to honor and respect and care for and not lose touch with, and new families coming in who, frankly, we don't do a good job anymore, and I don't know if we ever did, of teaching about, it means something to live in Columbia that's different than most other places. And so we're not handling, I think we're not, that's another thing that I would want to bring to CA. We're not handling the transitions in the community well and preserving our own legacy. Did that answer your question, Jason?
Oh yeah, definitely. Sorry.
Okay.
A little background here, but no, but that's very helpful, and because especially against the backdrop of we've seen the change, especially to the village center, for how it's a little bit more, I'm going to say rustic. Rustic is too strong, but it wasn't very vibrant.
It was a mess.
Yeah. So, and exactly. And so now we've got, it's definitely, you see more families, you see people walking around. I think it's a case of development that was, done right for the most part. Is there any other parts of Columbia, any other projects that are going on now where you'd say to yourself, oh, this is a really good move, for Wilde Lake or Columbia as a whole? Any other villages engaged in the activities that you think are worth noting? Like, oh, if we could do this here in Columbia, this would really be a great leap forward, for the quality of living. Anything else come to mind?
The Community Ecology Institute, the Shaw's Farm, formerly Shaw's Farm, now the Freetown Farm.
Yeah.
I think the work going on there is brilliant. And I don't have enough superlatives to talk about how important I think that work is. I think Columbia Community Care, the group that Erica Chavarria founded, that is, Rousean. That is Jim Rouse's vision, where we take care of each other from a place of love. Oh my goodness sakes, that's love. And that's brilliant. She wants to bring a peace and justice center to Columbia. Oh my gosh, I want that in Wilde Lake, and then I want to build another one somewhere else too. I want like 10 of them. Because I think our youth are worth investing in. And I think the more that we invest in our youth, the more dividends we will all see. I think that those are the types of ideas that we need that the CA board could nurture.
Bill, can you back at you?
So I will ask one more question, and then I believe Jason has his 98 mile an hour fastball that he's warming up.
Oh dear.
But my only question is this. So for people who would like to help you with your campaign and support you, what would you have them do? Where can they go? What can they do?
They can go to tinahorn.org. And there's an email there and what I stand for and information, and they can reach out to me. I would be thrilled for folks who want to chat or talk or work, or, I could always use help. I can always use the help.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Tina. So Jason, now, lightning round back your way.
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know if this is at all, I'm assuming this is a family show.
It is. And
so I want to be very careful to caution folks, please don't go to tinahorn.net.
Oh.
tinahorn.org.
Now that's just such a temptation.
I know. Don't do it. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just that's not me. Did you go, Jason?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Please go to tinahorn.org for all of your Wilde Lake campaign needs.
As George Soros is tickling Jason's feet, he is on tinahorn.net just looking at things.
Oh goodness sakes.
My word. This is just, the quorum has broken down.
Let's see. Love not what? Oh,
gosh, you went there.
I'm still on Google. But I will say this. But just from a perspective of, family friendliness, obviously, yes. But I have completely lost my train of thought.
Do you need me to take the last question, Jason?
Sorry. Oh yeah. I know exactly what. It's all right. So if someone approaches you in a hallway or an elevator, and they know you're running for this office, and you got to give them a 15-second elevator response, and they look at you and say, Tina Horn, not of .net, what's your deal? What do you say?
I say, I thank you for considering me. I'm hoping to bring a lens of equity and diversity to the CA board.
All right, and with time to spare.
People get tired, don't they, of listening?
That's been my experience, but no, very apt descriptor. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I just did go to tinahorn.net,
Oh, dear Lord.
and the lady's in a hot tub and she has a book. So she wrote a book. I'm all for writing.
Not me.
So it is most definitely not this Tina Horn. However, Columbia, Maryland's Tina Horn, who is not just a local but a countywide treasure. And I thank you for your years of, and it has piled up to be years now of advocacy and leadership and social justice and race relations. And as I was, as we were talking, my eyes went over to the television in my room, and I was looking at yet another night of protests. This one now being led in Chicago for the shooting of the 13-year-old in Chicago. So that's work that's not done, and that's never done. And
Well, I hope it's done.
Well, it's never finished, I should say. The work is never finished.
Well,
Should
I figure
be.
if white people invented race, we can certainly uninvent it, can't we?
I hope so. I hope so. And
I think we have to try.
And the best place to do it is on our own backyard. So I thank you for running and trying to change Columbia in a way that's long overdue.
Thank you.
So thank you for that, and thank you for being a great guest. And I hope you'll come back on the show another time. There will be a lot more to talk about.
Thank you both so much. I truly appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure. Jason, any last words before the Sorosians cart you off to parts unknown?
Well, yeah, a lot of thoughts, but I don't want to get in the middle of a serious jag because, as we know, the tech is a little bit dodgy today. It's a little bit dodgy.
Perhaps I hear that. I hear you flipping frequencies like the Enterprise did to try to confuse the Borg.
Rotating frequency.
Yeah, shifting, rotating frequencies up and down the spectrum. Geordi had the idea based on his visor. That was a great episode.
Was a good episode.
Wait. Is this the Kelvin timeline or not? Because
no, this is Next Generation, dude.
Series, yeah.
I know. I'm just with you.
Okay. Like, wait, you don't know that? Geordi LaForge.
Star of Reading Rainbow, and could be next host of Jeopardy.
I hear that.
He's got to be. I mean, come on.
It's so obvious. It would be great. Anyway, for Jason Booms in an undisclosed location, I'm Bill Woodcock. Thank you for watching or listening to this edition of Forward Maryland. Join us Sunday when we will be speaking with Mary Turos of the Decency for the First District PAC. Until then, have a great night, everybody. Take care.